The 50-30-20 rule, a go-to budgeting strategy for many, was introduced in 2005 by Senator Elizabeth Warren and her daughter Amelia Warren Tyagi in their book All Your Worth: The Ultimate Lifetime Money Plan. They wanted to make budgeting accessible for everyone, whether you're a financial expert or just starting out. First thing to know is that the 50-30-20 rule is calculated based on your after-tax income. That means you're working with the money left after Uncle Sam takes his share. The 50-30-20 rule is a straightforward budgeting strategy that divides your expenses into three categories: 50% for essentials, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. It is a simple plan that works well for those who wish to place each of their expenses into categories. Needs are the bills that you absolutely must pay and the things that are necessary for survival. People define their needs in vastly different ways. However, there are several things we can easily agree on: housing, utilities, many kinds of insurance, and transportation. You need to know that spending too much from one category will rob the others. In short, be honest with yourself about your needs. While essentials are straightforward, wants are more personal and subjective. For instance, a vacation that Jamie sees as a necessity might appear excessive to Morgan. The rule encourages you to not stress over wants. Allow yourself some leeway to spend on things that bring joy to your life, as long as it's within reasonable limits. Now, what you want to notice here is if you look closely, you'll see some similarities between needs and wants. Take clothing, for example. While it is a necessity, most people can clothe themselves inexpensively. Be honest with yourself about what is essential and what is just extra. Savings includes money set aside for the future, including an emergency fund, a retirement account, or saving toward long-term goals like home ownership. Unsurprisingly, it is also the hardest section because to save is to delay gratification. It's challenging to plan for the future because we tend to stay optimistic about our finances, thinking what possibly could go wrong. On the flip side, saving for retirement feels tough because it seems so far off. We might think, I'll start saving for retirement when I get a better job, right? You might actually want to pay attention to this category if you're not doing that right now and start saving. Alright, let's get into nitty-gritty of how 50-30-20 rule plays out in real life using you as the example. Let's say you earn $20 per hour and work full-time, typically 40 hours a week. Here is how you calculate your monthly income. Your weekly income is gonna be $800. So the correct gross monthly income would be $3,464. Now let's estimate your after-tax income. Assuming an average tax rate of about 20%, which can vary on your location and other factors, the after-tax income would be $2,771 to work with. Now, the rule suggests that 50% goes to needs, and that is $1,385 per month. For wants, you will allocate around $831 a month, and for savings, $554 a month. To save your time calculating each sector by yourself, I'll put the link down below in the description that will help you do it for you in a matter of a second. Let's uncover the top pros that make this rule a favorite among budgeters and reveal the cons that might make you rethink its one-size-fits-all approach. Here are some pros of this rule. Easy to understand and implement with just three categories: needs, wants, and savings. Ensures a balanced approach to covering essentials. Adaptable to adjust spendings accordingly. Encourages a balanced approach to saving. Helps manage discretionary spending to avoid going over budget. Reduces money management stress. Increases awareness of financial priorities. Less intimidating than more complicated budgeting methods. So does this rule have any negative sides? I think it does. The fixed percentages might not fit everyone's unique situation. Doesn't account for fluctuating costs or irregular expenses like medical bills or home repairs, which can disrupt the budget. 20% for savings might be inadequate for those with high expenses or debt. Might encourage spending on non-essentials, potentially leading to financial strain if not managed carefully. The rule might prioritize immediate wants over long-term financial goals. The rule may not be practical for those with low or irregular incomes, where even basic needs might exceed 50% of their earnings. So after reviewing all of these pros and cons, is the 50-30-20 rule as a superhero or just another budgeting trick? I would say this rule worked wonders for our parents and grandparents who lived like 10 million years ago when a loaf of bread cost a nickel. With rising living expenses, unpredictable costs, and varied income levels, sticking strictly to the 50-30-20 rule might not align with modern financial realities. In short, it's unrealistic. Great Mary wanted to give people some straightforward budgeting rule and ended up saying why it's not the one. Well, life isn't cheap, and I don't know if it was. For example, let's consider the cost of living today compared to a few decades ago. Back when our parents were starting out, housing costs were significantly lower relative to their incomes. They could easily allocate 50% of their earnings to necessities and still have room for savings and discretionary spending. But nowadays, an average person spends on rent about 40% of income. In high-cost cities like San Francisco, New York City, or Los Angeles, renters might spend 50%. And again, we're talking just about rent. Now, when you top it off with utilities and transportation, I bet this rule doesn't seem accurate anymore. That way, we can see that 50-30-20 rule is not that great actually, but that's okay. If you are able to budget your money accordingly following this method, congrats, you are doing a great job. And if you fall into that category of people for whom it seems impossible, taking into the consideration your income and living expenses, you might just want to consider different budgeting methods. In the 60% solution method, you cover all your needs with 60% of your budget. The other 30% is for wants, and 10% you allocate to the savings. Though I would recommend to change this method into 60-20-20. Using this method, you would try to squeeze all your needs and wants together into 70%. Because 20% you would allocate for debt repayment and leave the 10% for an emergency fund. In this method, you put together again the needs and wants into 70%. 10% goes towards paying off debt while also building savings and investing the other 10% left. A zero-based budget is a budgeting method where every dollar of your income is allocated to specific expenses, savings, or investments, leaving you with a balance of zero at the end of the budgeting period, typically a month. I will also leave the link down below for a zero-based budget calculator, where you can enter your income and it will show how much you need to allocate for most common budget categories as a starting point. And while you're considering which strategy fits you better, let's review overall budgeting tips that will help you in any of the chosen methods. Modify the rule to better fit your circumstances. Adjust percentages with what you think is better for you. Develop a personalized budget that reflects your actual income and expenses. Focus on covering your basic needs first: housing, utilities, groceries. Ensure these are fully funded. If saving 20% seems challenging, start with a smaller amount and gradually increase while your financial situation gets better. Review your discretionary spending and look for the areas where you can cut back. Explore ways to boost your income, such as freelancing or seeking a higher paying job, or simply rent out that extra room or move to a cheaper location. And the most important, always measure where you stay in terms of your budget. Bottom line, don't focus strictly on numbers. It's not always about math, it's about your priorities. Now, what are the frugal tips that will help you supercharge your budget and make every penny count? We'll uncover in the next video. Now, thanks for your time. I hope this video was helpful and I'll see you soon.